This popular Tucson Means Business podcast is brought to you by a Tucson favorite, the Outback Steakhouse, produced in the Stewart Title corporate offices on Broadway. Outback Steakhouse, yummy. Stewart Title, when you want it done right. Tucson Means Business, a Mark Bishop media production. And welcome, everybody, to another Tucson Means Business, where we promote all forms of businesses in Tucson, including nonprofits, and we have done for 6 years. And we're proud of that, and we've had some wonderful, wonderful stories come back from people. So I'm really glad that we can help you. And if you do know anybody that should be on air with me, by all means, give me a call or send me an email to mark@markbishopmedia.com. Love to talk to them. And, of course, we wouldn't be doing it without, number one, our major sponsor is the Outback Steakhouse. Thank you for that, Chad. Appreciate it muchly. Outback Steakhouse, truly Aussie. The only joint in town you can get a good Foster's. And add to that, Stewart Title and Trust, where my studio is and has been for the last 6 years. You know, Stewart Title and Trust on Broadway. Put it this way, when you want it done right, Stewart Title. Okay, my guests today are very special. I'm honored to have my guests here today, Sally Shamrell, hubby Glen, Shamrell
Murphy.
Yes. Thank you very much. And the hubby part of it, Glen.
Yeah, I'm just Glen Murphy. No
He's
hyphen.
Glen Murphy.
Yeah.
Touch of Irish in that. The best way to describe Sally is that she's she's a border girl. She was raised along the border in Naco. Even Naco.
Yes, rhymes with taco.
Rhymes with taco. I just watched a marvelous TV series, Naco. Gee, that was great. Anyway, she went to Bisbee High School, one of my favorite places, Bisbee.
Oh, my gosh.
I love Bisbee.
Artist community.
It is, but friendly people and that whole thing there, Sally. She's a U of A grad in media arts. And it's funny that after that she goes into radio and TV with a wonderful career and then quit to become an actress in L.A., right? You know, the famous Los Angeles, the city of angels. Numerous roles and the young and the restless. Oh, I remember her now. That's right. That's Sally and the TV series. So welcome, my dear. Lovely to see you.
Thank you.
It's been some time. Not only that, you've written 2 pilots and a screenplay, and you're fundraising now for a movie called Choir Practice. With Glen is involved with this. He is the CEO and producer of the thing, so we're going to be talking about that as well. Welcome, Glen.
Thank you, sir.
It's lovely to have you here. It's been some time. Just refresh my memory for my listeners, because this hangs around. You never know who is this, I'm telling you, with the emails I get from all over the place. What was the name of the place you had down near the uni again?
Aussie Cantina.
Yeah, Aussie
That's
Cantina.
right. That had good food.
Oh, my gosh. It was delicious.
That was popular, that place.
We're going to bring back the dingo dogs.
Yeah, we are actually. Yeah.
All right, because now you're in a different sort of edible type place. We'll talk about that as well. Sally, your journalism background, and you're focused on telling stories for the big screen that are inspired by actual events. After all you've done in your life and where you've been in the media, you've now focused on wanting to do this. And Choir Practice, which is the name of this movie, is the tale of an unconventional priest and a lost migrant and Tucson cops and the drug cartel. Okay? How did you slip into this?
Classic border story.
Classic, but it is. It is.
Yeah, it kind of is. Well, first, Mark, when I went to Los Angeles, you find you have a lot of free time. And so I did have my day job was still working at the TV stations out there in the market of Los Angeles. They actually employ just simply writers just to write the copy for the news anchors.
Wow.
But, I wasn't running out in the field anymore. I wasn't sweating. I wasn't taking those big, heavy, emotional stories home with me anymore,
right.
which is what you do when you're a reporter or an actual news anchor. I'm just writing the copy, and when I leave the building, the door closes, I'm done with it. So it was actually a wonderful day job to have when you are waiting for auditions, when you're waiting for the phone to call or the phone to ring. And, or getting that now auditions come over the internet and they're called C-mails. If you get a C-mail, that makes an actor's day.
Is that like a C, the letter C, or
Yes.
is it S-double-E, C-mail?
Nope, C.
C,
And,
okay.
Now I'm trying to think, like,
Cool.
what
C-mail.
does
It
C?
probably stands for casting.
Very good.
See? That's
he's got
why
a
I'm
brain.
with
That's
him.
why he's the CEO of the darn thing. You know,
Not just beautiful,
Well,
but
I was the only
smart,
one
too.
available also, mate.
But anyway, so you have a lot of downtime, and I've always been writing from journalism.
Yes,
And so
yes.
the first thing I did was I wrote a pilot on the TV news business
Okay.
because they say write what you know,
yes.
and I knew. From Yuma and working in the Tucson market, and I did some short gig up in Phoenix. And so I wrote a TV pilot, didn't know what to do with it. I finished it. I'm like, all right, so that project's done. Where's my next audition? So anyway, having been in LA as an actor for 5 years, 2 different stints of 5-year blocks, we moved back, Glen and I moved back to Tucson serendipitously right before COVID, and which was great because we had a house here instead of a tiny apartment, and we had some elbow room when everybody was in lockdown.
Right.
So, but that was the time years before a Tucson cop friend I knew from being a reporter here in Tucson at KBOA brought me this character. And he said there's this priest that comes on ride-alongs on the weekends, and he was an Army chaplain, and he's a real unconventional guy. He hunts, he fishes, he plays slap bass in a band, and he rides along with us. And I was like, yeah, that is a great character. And for years, Glen and I kind of kicked around as I was waiting for auditions, what story to build around this character. And so then when COVID hit, I had time to really dive into it. And I just was reading many, many border stories and came up with a story to marry with this priest character. And it all, developed from there. We would have some readings to some of our friends that were in our little bubble during COVID. And it just developed into something that is...
So you got good feedback during that time as well.
From friends.
Yeah, when you shared it with them, though. It's like what do they call it?
A staged reading.
Yeah. And people sit in a room. If it's a product,
table read, yeah.
They sit in a room and everybody says, I just can't think of the darn name.
Table read.
Okay, that'll do.
And, a lot of them gave, because we're all, well, apart from Glen, the 2 of you are from down under, but many of us, my friends,
Right.
all sort of grew up in Southern Arizona. So
Yeah.
they pitched some, what about this little
Yeah, well, they'd
thing
understand stuff
Yeah,
like that.
exactly.
They grew up here, We're blow-ins, Glen and I. I mean, I've only been here on and off 20 years, living in Phoenix and Tucson.
It's only 25 for me. So
25 for you? Okay. I've
On and
been
off.
married 25,
On and
would
off.
you believe? I didn't marry till I was 60. Was I married? I married at 47 before I married, yeah.
Oh.
I was career, honey. I was waiting for the phone to ring.
Yeah, exactly.
And you know what? No one wants you when you're sitting on apple boxes, you know what I mean?
Right.
But if you're in a penthouse like I was in Townsville, boy, life's very different.
Yeah.
It's your first feature film that you have developed under the Flat Dog Films moniker. And I love this, the Flat Dog Films. I'm looking at a little photo of their doggy, and the doggy's laying down flat on the tummy, right? And that's how
Right.
you name the company of all things.
That's
Flat
how he
Dog
cools
Films.
off.
That's how he cools off.
And that's Bruce. Bruce is a funny name in Australia.
Yeah, well, my wife's a Bruce nut.
I know, but that's Springsteen. Bruce is named after the Monty Python sketch.
Yeah.
Okay.
All Australians are named Bruce.
Okay, so television career, Glen's career. Now let's talk about Glen. You're a live music producer and business consultant. What about the music producing business? Where did that?
Oh, God. I mean...
Well, where's home for you? You a Perth boy?
Perth, yeah.
You're originally a Perth boy.
Yeah, West Coast.
West Coast Eagles, man.
Yeah, well, I'm a Dockers fan, but that's a whole other story.
You're in the 5. You're in the 8 this year, baby. Tigers are at the bottom,
There you go.
We just won 3 flags, but we've got to rebuild, everybody's leaving.
I never get a chance to watch it.
You should do, buddy.
Yeah.
Something,
I get feedback from my family all the time.
Yeah.
So
I loved the West when I was there.
it's a good spot.
I worked in Kalgoorlie, of all places, 6 kg. I'll never forget it.
Wow.
So then I was in Perth and I slept on a park bench on that park overlooking the river.
Kings Park.
Kings Park in
Absolutely
Perth. Yeah,
stunning.
yeah, waiting for the phone to ring. But and it was a phone
Aren't we
box.
all?
Oh, this is so good. Flat Dog Films. It's a Tucson, Arizona-based company committed to creating projects that make an emotional, psychological, or social impact. That's pretty heavy stuff,
A little bit.
right?
Yeah.
Explain it, please?
I think that's Sally's
All right.
purview more than mine.
I just feel like, from my journalism background, it's easier for me to sink my teeth into true stories. But we want to tell them in the most truthful way while entertaining at the same time. And just make sure that everyone working with us is having the best experience they can. We want to be fair to everyone. And just
So you're trying
really
to provide the
bring-
opportunity for people to work, aren't you?
in Tucson, in film, which
Right.
Tucson used to be such a huge film market.
Apparently so, from the research and the people. I have a show on the channel called BZB Entertainment Forum, hosted by Ben Fries and Zach Rain. And boy, have I met some wonderful, talented people through that show over the last year. And I'm talking, writers, cinematographers, actors, screenplay writers. I mean, it just goes on. And Tucson was the hub. John Wayne loved it here. He lived here, right?
Definitely.
Apparently there are a million stories.
Yeah,
Sure. But I don't understand. We're going to get into this. There's something wrong. I'm not silly. As a journalist myself, I look in on the outside sometimes and I think, hang on a minute. Why are all these movies going to Utah or going to New Mexico? It can only be money. There's got to be a reason through the government somehow. There's got to be no kickback for anybody. I'm going to get to the bottom of this, and that's another reason I've looked forward to having you on. But you, my friend Glenn, how on earth did you get into this music? Were you a musician?
I started out as a musician, or what I would loosely call a musician, and then realised that the roadies were making more money than I was. And then after doing that for a little while and developing an engineering passion, I realized that the manager was making more money than I was. So I became a manager. And then I realized the promoters were making more money than I was. So I became a promoter. And
See a trend here?
I was very fortunate in the 70s in Australia. The music industry was huge, and 70s, 80s. And I grew up with and friends with INXS and Keith Urban.
Lovely.
Like that.
Yeah.
And, I managed them. I ended up doing concert promotion. And at the same time, I've always owned restaurants and bars. So it was a hectic career, but something I would never, I don't regret 1 minute of it.
Right.
Apart from murdering a few brain cells over the years.
Well, you're an entrepreneur at heart.
How did that happen?
I'm not sure.
That's what you are. You saw something, you see it, you go get it.
Yeah, I
become
come from a family of entrepreneurs. So
Right,
it's in my blood, and
Well, there you go. You can't stop a good man down, can you? You can't keep him down.
I just like building things. I like watching things grow.
Yeah.
That's
Well, you've done a lot of that. Your background, I think you've owned something like 40-odd businesses, right?
Yeah.
Also overseas.
Yeah, Australia, Thailand, and the US.
Okay. When I went to Thailand, this will take you back. Koh Samui only had backpackers on it.
And unfortunately, Samui is not as good as it used to be.
Right. And now?
Now it's resorts, and it's It's one of the most
Expensive places
in
I've been.
Thailand.
And I'll never forget getting out there, too, in that damn longboat. I was packing death at the time.
They're a lot of fun.
If you've never been to Thailand, strongly suggest you do. It's an education. It's a lovely place. It really, really is.
An education is a good way to put it.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
It is. Just don't do anything wrong, because the jails aren't nice and all the rest of it.
No, and they actually hang big banners at the airport saying, don't do drugs, don't do this, or we will hang you.
Yeah.
And people still do it. I'm like, didn't you read the sign?
I
as you
can't
came in?
believe that, Remember Midnight Express, that movie?
Yeah.
That was a hell of a good one. And there was another one, Vince Vaughn was in it. There were three guys that just took a bicycle. They were in Indonesia somewhere, and they threw it in the bushes, and they ended up in jail.
Yeah.
Do you remember that movie? And he
No,
was I forget the darn name, of Sunset in Paradise or something like that.
Oh, right.
But he got out of it and got back to New York driving a beautiful black cab sort of thing. Not a cab, a private car.
Town
Town
car.
car.
But the other two, thank you, Sally, town car. But the other two were left in jail,
Yeah.
and they hanged them
Oh, they absolutely do.
for a darn bike.
Yeah.
You know,
it's against the law to ride a motorcycle without a shirt on. In Thailand, they've got some weird laws, and they stick to them.
But God, things have changed, haven't they? So 40-odd businesses, Glenn. You're a very smart man. You see the potential. You build things. You sell them. Righto. After that terrific little restaurant downtown near the university, now years later, be back, and what used to be Jonathan's Cork, is now the Cork.
Just the Cork.
Just the Cork. Has it got a new sign yet?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. that was Mother Nature at its best. We got hit by a pretty bad microburst last year.
Right.
And it wiped out the old sign that had to be
done anyway.
So
now Mother Nature was working with you.
Yeah, it was like, thanks, big fella.
So, all right, what's the deal? Because that, and I know Chad doesn't mind, he's such a lovely guy, because this is Tucson Mean Business, proudly sponsored by the Outback Steakhouse. But there is a restaurant in town that has been infamous for many years with its food, its coziness, and all the rest of it. And that is the Cork now. And it's owned by Glen and Sally. What have you done differently?
Believe it or not very much. It had such great bones. We upgraded technology in a big way because Jonathan was an old school operator, and that's fine. I'm more into technology and having numbers at my fingertips. So we did a lot of technology upgrades, and really we rode with Jonathan's menu for close to a year because we wanted people to know that we're not coming in. One of the rumours we heard was I was going to turn it into an Irish pub. The Cork is always going to be the Cork.
That's right.
When we're around.
That's the bones. That's why you bought it.
Absolutely. And it's got a really special place in our heart. It's cozy. The bar is, I think, the best bar in Tucson. It's a lot of fun. The regulars, actually, I think they own it.
More or less.
I'm pretty sure they own the bars anyway.
Yeah, you got to get in. I'll give you that.
You've got to get in at 3 o'clock, otherwise you won't get a seat.
Yes, there are certain places like that in Tucson that guys have been going and gals have been going for 30 years.
Yeah.
And dare you sit in their seat.
Absolutely. And actually, our crowd are amazingly polite and
hospitable.
There's a kind of not a regime, but a process when you go to the Cork. If you get there at 3 o'clock and you don't get a seat, Sally calls them the loge chairs, which are just off to the side, and you just sit there, and within 20 minutes or so, the seats change hands, and it's really...
well, when you talk technology before, I thought you were going to go this business where the service isn't there. You press, what do you call it, electronic menus, and you put your order in and all that. Yeah, I hate that stuff. Don't you?
No.
This is all back of house.
This is all
back of house.
Operating technology.
Right. So how are you? How are you doing that? Trying to run a restaurant, because that's a big gig.
Yeah.
It's a full-time gig, really.
It's 3 full-time gigs.
Right. And here you are making movies as well. How do you do it all?
A certain amount of insanity, probably a larger percentage than we should have.
I mean, Glen is the operator. I mean, he started out as a culinary
He's a chef too, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Back in the day.
And then became an operator and has great business acumen. I just do the social media. I shouldn't say just do it. I know it's a very important...
You're the social butterfly. And the PR.
But yeah, and actually the writing, I take the pictures. I post the posts on Instagram and Facebook.
I have to say this, Mark. People ask me, how did you make this transition so well and so smoothly?
Right.
And I tell Sally this to her face all the time, but I think the public needs to know without her social media acumen, we wouldn't have done as well as we've done.
Oh, what a lovely compliment.
She's got a real art of
Well, there is an art in this, believe me.
She's a storyteller.
There you go. It's natural. Yeah, but it's a lot of work hands-on all the time.
It's every day.
I've dealt with people, because for my company, I've dealt with people, who are using software just to belt out stuff out there 7 days a week, 2 runs a day, Facebook, LinkedIn, this and that. But you know what? The algorithms they've changed. They're putting that stuff at the bottom. You've got to put heart and soul into the stuff you do in social media. And obviously that's what Sally's doing.
Yeah.
Otherwise you wouldn't have got what you've got.
Yeah, and we do some old school stuff, like she writes a newsletter once a month, and we've got
Well, that's good.
About 3,500, 4,000 people.
Yes.
So you've got a database.
Yeah, whatever that is. Yeah, I'm the same.
I'm still doing things after 20 years. Tomato, you know.
Basil,
too.
Hey, I can talk American. Be yourself, son. Always be yourself. Yes, Dad.
Yeah, exactly. So, things like the newsletter is very personal, and I have people come into me and say, we look forward to the newsletter every month.
It's surprising people do.
Yeah.
They feel they belong.
It just tells a story, and it gives the clientele some ownership in the restaurant, and it really shows in our clientele. I always say we don't own it, we're just looking after it.
I think it's a darn good thing. So when you scoot off and do your travels and all that jazz, you really have to rely then on whom? A manager.
Well, that's the absolute truth.
Yep.
Our staff, most of them have been there for 20 years.
So they stayed?
Nobody left.
Oh, that's a credit.
And we have very little staff turnover. So Jeff Hughes is our new general manager. He's only been there 27 years.
Is that all?
Yeah,
Oh,
so he's a newbie to the
He's a newbie, yeah. So I guess he knows his way around a little bit. I haven't met him yet, but maybe one day.
Oh, you would have met him. You would
Would
have
I
seen
have
him.
met him?
Yeah, he was a
behind the
bartender
bar
there forever. And
Oh, well, I never got to the bar. Could never get in.
yeah,
And I don't like reaching out.
Right.
I like the one around the corner. That'd be nice. See everybody comes in then. That's a good one. Mark's place, little bar up there.
Right,
Mark's joint. What did I want to ask you? Second feature screenplay. I want to talk about that one. This is early 80s. This is a true story, right? There was a Tucson bank robbery.
Yes.
Okay.
The script is still underway, so it's a little bit.
All right. Can we talk about it?
Don't want to reveal too much.
All right.
don't tell the story.
No, I won't tell the story, but it was the largest, what you call, get in U.S. history.
Yes.
And so this is true.
Yes, 1981.
Wow.
So, we're doing choir practice, and Glen so I bring Glen in to talk to the money people because, again, he knows business. He knows how to structure deals because he's been doing it his whole life. I know. It's like, why do I always have to structure the deals?
Yeah, right. So when do you hit him with this? In bed? Or, Glenn, can I just talk to you for a minute?
Yeah, sometimes.
See this wonderful thing? Go get the money, will you?
I know you're shampooing your hair right now, but no. So he comes in and he puts the deals together. But choir practice, he keeps telling people, like, this is going to be our calling card. It is my first feature. I've done, I would say, produced and directed so many long form stories as a reporter, but this is the first actual narrative feature film. And so it will be our calling card. So it needs to be great. Because we do have other films that we want to make.
Okay. And all these will be under Flat Dog Films LLC, right?
Right.
But choir is the first.
Right. And that next one, because it's set in the 80s, that just adds cost to the production.
All right. Well, we've got to get choir out first, right? But apparently you've had pushback about shooting this film in Tucson. Is that right?
Oh, only from people who are in LA who, you mentioned New Mexico before. So New Mexico has 30% film tax incentives, which is a rebate for producers to work in New Mexico. They can borrow money knowing they're going to get 30% back when production is done. Arizona just put in our own film state tax incentives. They are 15%. There are some contingency things like we're going to have a diverse cast. We're going to do all the post-production in the state. And so we can probably get up to 20%. But so people who aren't in Arizona want us to shoot in New Mexico because of the tax rebates. But at this point, the people who are financially backing us are doing so because we've said we're going to shoot it in Tucson. They want to see Tucson on the big screen. And so I've just dug my heels in to people who suggest we shoot elsewhere and just said, no, this is a Tucson story. It needs to be shot in the desert. The migrant is in the desert. Other producers have said people don't know native shrubbery. And Glenn and I will specifically pick apart movies that are supposed to be in Arizona, but we know they're not in Arizona.
Yeah, it stands out, doesn't it?
I know.
All right.
It's like, saguaros, they're only found in southern Arizona and northern Mexico. So.
That's right. And you operate with integrity, and you've put a stamp on your company, on Flat Dog Films, that, extremely high standards, quality, every aspect of your work, honesty in your filmmaking. You're trying to do it in Tucson, which was the hub of Hollywood. Have they forgotten that? See how it comes down to money? It's so sad with the arts, isn't it?
It's true.
30%, right? So in plain English for my listeners, okay, someone comes to me and says, look, here's a wonderful film. it just reminded me of something. I'm going to share this with you. I've never told it on air before. My very first gig in America years ago when I landed was here in Tucson. There wasn't any work going or anything with all my background, God knows what, but there was a guy who had a room with phones and there were booths, and you sat in a booth and he gave you a stack of what they call penny stocks.
Oh, God.
Yeah. And you ring your ass off, right?
Yeah.
Trying to get fundraising, and that was for Howling 2.
Wow.
Right? Remember, Howling was made for $200,000.
Right.
And it made a couple of million. I mean, it was a ripper. And you can get this in movies, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
A lot of flops, but also winners, big winners.
Mark, there's a very solid statistic in movie making, and that's that the films for now, in this day and age, films for $5 million and less, or $50 million and over, are the real moneymakers in the film business.
Interesting.
Most of the ones in the middle of that don't make any money. So
why?
It's just a statistical fact. I'm not sure the reason.
I think especially, the way it works is sales agents can sell the film to individual territories all around the world. They can just sell it to Germany. They can just sell it to the UK.
Yeah.
And the lower the budget, you only need a couple of territories to make your money back.
Oh, I see.
That's part of the problem with film in general is there's no provable ROI. So when you when you do a real estate deal, you can say I want a cap rate of 5%, whereas in film,
sure, it gives no guarantees.
There are no guarantees, but if you position the film in the right markets with the right content and the right structure, financial structure, then your ROI is pretty instant. When you got 20% return from the state guaranteed, half the time that covers your production nut when it's under a couple of $1 million.
Well, if there was an idiot running it, I'd be a little concerned. But when you look at your business acumen and what you've done and the various projects, restaurants, bars, you had an award-winning Australian music festival, independent films. You've done it, proved it, been there, done that, don't have to do it all again. The reality is you can make money with this film if you get the chance to make the darn thing.
Absolutely.
But I want to understand why and how you've targeted how you're going to sell it.
Well, you've got to look at the structure of the film itself. Everyone keeps saying to us, move it to New Mexico, move it to Utah, move it to Atlanta. The reality of these rebates is the big studios actually capture most of that because the rebates aren't infinite. They're capped at certain hundreds of millions of dollars.
I see.
So Netflix have built now 3 massive studios in New Mexico. So
have they?
Yeah, the New Mexico film. Santa Fe is my hometown in this country, and
Santa Fe.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird story, but
I haven't been there yet, but I will.
Phenomenal place.
It's supposed to be very arty-farty.
Yes, it is.
It is.
Rich arty-farty.
Oh,
very
richer
well
than
off.
Bisbee.
Well, we better get there and start putting the hands out, eh?
Well, they all want to invest in their state.
So what you're telling me is the Netflix of the world and these big buggers, they all want you to make the film there so they can get their hands back on the 30%.
Yeah, that's part of it. And what we've discovered, and because we've been in this town for so long, Sally, our whole life, basically, we can shoot this project way cheaper in Tucson than we can with the rebates in other states that have massive rebates.
I believe that.
Because we have connections, we know, and people, our personal business community are like, we will support you on that. The hard part is convincing people that you need to invest in something that's going to enhance the state for the future. Film has been gone for 20 years, and most investors don't understand it.
So someone says, all right, you're trying to raise funds. Let's just say I've got a spare $5,000 or $10,000. I believe in you guys and I'll put it in. Can you give me some sort of idea of some sort of return I may get?
Yeah, there's a whole scale on this. So as Sally kind of touched on, distribution is our money trail. So making the film and the production is all the expense. Mm-hmm. So we've been fortunate because of our contacts, and moreover Sally's contacts in LA, because she's worked with Ryan Murphy and all of the big guys over there, and they've put us in touch with like massive film distribution companies. So we've got a handshake deal with one of the biggest distribution companies in the industry, mm-hmm. and they'll go into.
Well, that's encouraging.
Yeah, it's a handshake. I'll believe it when the ink's dry.
Yeah,
but that's kind of the way Hollywood works.
Can you tell us who that is?
No.
Okay.
I'd like to,
right.
But I don't want to shoot myself in the foot.
Well, it's America, a handshake. You got to get it in writing, mate.
Yeah, exactly.
No, but this is fascinating stuff. I hope you don't mind me asking this, because my listeners like to know too. Why aren't you making it here in Tucson? Why are they trying to push you into New Mexico and all that jazz? It's not right.
No, it's not right. And it's very frustrating for us. We've raised half the money through family and friends and some sort of government departments that have been able to peel off a bit of...
Well, what would a budget cost to make Quiet Practice, as an example?
Well, the initial budget was 1.2.
Well, that's pretty low. That's under this $5 million jazz, right?
Well, absolutely.
And that's a profit-making film.
That's exactly right. We've actually lowered the budget through structural changes in the production values of it.
Okay.
But we're down to $600,000.
Oh, wow.
And it's a 3-week shoot. And nobody realizes that shooting the film is the easiest part of the film.
Yeah, it's all the post-production, right?
Well, it's the post. It's mainly getting the money.
And pre-production.
Right.
Planning the shots so that we can stay on schedule when the schedule starts.
Right. Because it's nothing worse if you blow out a day, right? And you haven't got that money.
A day costs you a lot of money.
That's right.
You've got a whole...
And you've got to pay your actors. Speaking of which, I forgot to bring it in, but I read all about him last night. I ended up seeing a movie. He was in it.
Danny Trejo.
Danny, the one scares the hell out of you, right?
Yeah,
Just to look at him. But I guess he's a gentle soul, right?
He is.
I would love to meet him and have him as an interview.
I know. I mean, I would love to bring him to you. So his agent, basically, when you get to someone of his caliber, basically you're buying his name.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the millions of movies he's been in now.
Yeah. So they call it pay to play. And so basically he doesn't audition. He, his agent sees the pitch deck and says, yes, he would like to do this movie. What's your offer? And I know that a lot of filmmakers will do things like make the offer. So basically, if for some reason the film did not get made, we would have to pay him anyway.
Oh, it's in the contract, is it?
Yeah. So I haven't been comfortable, being that this is our first feature,
of course,
to play with our friends' money and say, okay, we'll guarantee you this. Yeah. And then hopefully we make the second half of the money, or
all right, so
raise it.
I've got to ask you this question, right? Because it's the first thing that came to my head. I'm talking business now. Why do we need Danny Trejo? There are thousands of actors who might do it for nothing for you, who are just on the edge of getting known.
I mean, that's not a lead role. That is a role that we can shoot in one day.
Right.
But it's a prominent role because he would be the cartel boss.
Oh, I figured he'd be the cartel boss.
Yeah. So that, when, we're talking about sales and distribution, his name, it will help us get sales.
It helps us sell the
That's
film.
where a name comes in then.
Absolutely.
In the film industry.
We've also got Stephen Michael Quesada from Breaking Bad. It gave us a letter.
I love that. Who was that then?
He was Gomez. No, he was Gomez's partner. No, he was Gomez.
He was Gomez. He was the bald cop's partner.
In
okay.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
And he's a great guy. He's a comedian. He's actually a politician as well.
Right. In Albuquerque.
But as Stephen's given us a letter of intent. So you've got to be careful in this arena too, that we don't get branded as stunt casting which is basically putting a name in just to build the film. All of our cast members are integral roles, so we're not really stunt casting at all.
Well, there doesn't seem to be that many roles in choir practice, is it? You've got the priest.
There are probably 30.
Oh, that much? Okay. You could cut out all the food for the crew.
Yeah, that's going to save us a few. Well, it doesn't save us money. It costs us money.
It would do, right. Inspired by Bruce. That's the dog, by the way. What breed is he?
Maltese.
Maltese, right.
Maltese, yeah.
Okay, so Choir Practice is the name of the movie. It's the very first feature film that Flat Dog Films have developed here in Tucson, and you're going to be hearing a lot more about them. An Arizona-based company committed to creating projects. I love that because I think there could be a lot of movies here.
Mark, I wanted to tell you, for the listeners that don't know, so Choir Practice is actually what the Tucson cops and some Border Patrol agents call their after-work drinks. So it's a double entendre. The priest plays in a band. He attends the church choir practice, but then the cops do I see you at choir practice.
Right.
So that's where the name comes from.
That's where the name comes from. Interesting.
Yeah.
Something I learned today, I never knew. Johnny, invite me to your next choir practice, will you?
Right,
I'd love to meet some of the boys,
No singing.
No singing. You and Glen formed the company. You've been creating media content together for more than a decade now. This also includes, commercials for radio, TV?
Yeah.
Anything you can tell me about that's done really well?
Sally and I have a habit of writing our own commercials, which I have, as a consultant for many years, I've always told people not to do. But we tend to get a bottle of red wine and some Bev Naps, and we come up with a theme. And we had a coffee shop, drive-through coffee shop in Santa Fe, and we wrote a whole crazy commercial about Pablo, who was the son of
Juan Valdez, who notoriously was the face of Folgers Coffee.
Right.
Their Colombian coffee.
All right.
Like 30 or 40 years ago.
Yeah.
And so suddenly we were like, oh, he's Juan Valdez's nephew who's bringing a different kind of coffee to America.
It's fun for us.
Yeah, right.
As much as, I'm always charged with the financial structuring and everything else of our businesses.
Right.
And Sally's the creative. We road trip a lot. Right. So we get into our truck and we're driving along and we'll just start riffing.
It's a good time. It's a good time to be doing all of that. You're totally ad-libbing. You just,
Totally crazy
you don't know what can come out, yeah.
The choir practice had so many iterations in the early script that, the priest was a serial killer and all of these things. We just, because we've got complete license. It's our product. We can do whatever we like. And we have fun together doing that.
You're listening to Tucson Means Business with Mark Bishop. I hope you're enjoying the show. Special guest today, Sally Shamrell Murphy and Glen Murphy, owners of the Cork. And, are they really? Yeah, you didn't know that? Yes, they well and truly, as well as a million other things. And the biggest thing is with movies that we're talking about. And you are listening to Tucson Means Business, proudly brought to you by the Outback Steakhouse and Stuart Title. And, we'll be right back. Gather the family and let the Outback do the grilling tonight. Have your favorites or be adventurous and try something deliciously new, like the refreshing strawberry kiwi Rita. Yummy! Have you tried the infamous golden, crispy bloomin' onion? What about a steak and seafood? Both worlds of bold flavors of the sirloin and shrimp combo. And top off the night by sharing the new Thunder and Lightning dessert. Yes, please. Laugh together over a great meal. Let's go out back tonight. Okay, we're back. We don't have a lot of time left, so I want to talk about the movie. Do you remember when Hogan, way back, took in Australia, Paul Hogan, the bridge painter that people don't know.
Yeah, that's a funny story.
How he got so big with Strop doing those ads in the Winfield, and that's what made him a star.
Well, Strop was the genius.
Strop was the genius, admittedly, but Americans don't know that because that was the Tonight Show. You got this dude with shorts on, long socks, a bow tie, and a top, like you're going to a ball. But
Didn't he have a handkerchief on his head at one stage?
Strop did, but Hogan,
right, yeah.
But he got big enough with that to go to all the people of Australia.
Yeah.
And I couldn't believe it, just the Tonight Show guy got the director's job for this film. And now when you look at it after 50 times, you can see where there's things you do.
Oh, yeah.
Gary Furman, I think it was.
Yeah.
Anyway, they asked Australians for $1 each or more to make Mick Dundee.
Yeah.
Crocodile Dundee.
Wow.
Yeah.
Still being played on cable.
Yeah.
And I saw the 60 Minute interview where Tax were after him too. I don't know why. I believe he's very ill. I'm not sure what the deal is, but... Was that true? It's supposed to be a true story. Everybody could donate to be in that movie to make $1 back, $1 back.
Right.
That's what I was told. And I'm wondering, could you not do the same? Could you raise funds?
God, I wish it was that easy. Unfortunately,
and also keeping track of all that.
Well, there's ways to
Sounds like a
track it.
nightmare.
No, well, there's AI today. You can track anything. I mean, but just imagine if it was Tucson behind it. And everybody put $1 in. What's the population of Tucson?
About 600,000, which is permanent, which is exactly the dollar amount we need. So everyone's got to give us $1.
Everybody's got to give it a lousy
Actually, we only
buck.
need half of them because we've already got half the
All right. So maybe if we get out on the main drag out here with a big tent and it's got merit.
Broadway
I
and
don't know.
Alverno.
Fortunately or unfortunately, the SEC has very strict guidelines on raising money.
Do they?
Yeah, and especially if it's a corporation and if it's a business transaction, it's certainly easier with non-profits, but as a business format, it's
your hands are tied everywhere you look, aren't they?
You got to be very careful.
Very careful. So you say, that you're in the toughest phase of filmmaking right now. Production has not even begun.
Correct.
You've raised half the dough.
Yeah.
Which you need 600,000, right?
Yeah.
Yes. And that will take us into that includes post-production. It'll be ready to screen.
Okay.
And actually, Mark, if you just want to make the check out to Flat Dog Films LLC,
all right,
we'll take it with us now.
And I'm going to write on the end of it "no sense" as well.
Okay, exactly.
All right. Now there's 220 in indie film festivals around America.
Yep.
Were you going to hammer those?
Sure. I mean, we're going to obviously...
Are you allowed, or is the big company that's doing this handshake with you said no?
So this is the other thing, is there's so many different roadmaps.
See?
For each filmmaker. I would love to do some of the top tier film festivals if we have that choice.
Wouldn't it be fun?
Sometimes the distributors, too, will do that just to build the audience.
I see.
We're...
Get it known, in other words.
What
right?
people don't understand is film festivals are basically a sales pitch. That's where films go to get distribution.
As I understand it, that's where these distributors go.
Absolutely.
And you've got to sell them on your film.
Absolutely. So
they buy the film.
Our sales agent will go to all of these festivals with our product. But there's so many different... You hear about Sundance and Cannes and all that sort of stuff, but you only see the facade of that. All the deals happen in small rooms and hotels. And it's...
But how that fascinates me. How would that work? How do you sell one guy in a motel room about your film?
It's like a sideshow. We went to the American film market last year, and it was held at the Lowe's Hotel.
Yes, Lowe's.
At the Lowe's on Santa
Ocean.
Monica.
Okay.
And there was 500 booths. They took over the whole hotel, and you basically bounce from one room to the next looking at projects.
I see.
And that's what these buyers do. So you'll set up in these big film festivals, and the buyer for France, Netflix, will walk past. That's a very loose example.
Okay, but they are showing the actual film, you're saying?
No, they're usually just work product, posters, pictures.
Story, a background story, what it's about, this and that, right?
And
because all these joints need content, don't they?
Yeah,
all over the world needs content.
Absolutely. And, that's part of the reason our film is bilingual as well, because we can get into more Spanish-speaking markets.
Right.
So, if I'll give you an example, our guy will go, because it's Spanish speaking, he'll go to the South American version of Netflix, for example, not necessarily Netflix, he'll sell that territory off for, let's say, $150,000. So they'll buy the rights to that film to air in that market for X amount of years. And these deals are in perpetuity. So that film could run in South America for 20 years, and we still get the same cut all the way through the life of the film. And this is the part of the difficulty in explaining ROI on films because it's such a long-term process.
Right. You could end up getting 5 times your investment, but you've just got to be patient.
Absolutely. And because this is a bilingual film, we've got, forget about the American market, which is obviously our prize, but you've got all of Spain, you've got lots of Europe, and each little...
Mexico, Central America.
So the film, literally, the audio is dubbed into these languages?
Well, in our case, ours is a bilingual film because it's set on the Mexican border. So
it'll be partially subtitled.
So I was going to say it'd be subtitled, right?
And we're not... There's nothing worse than, the old kung fu movies when the mouth's moving. We're not doing that.
I hate that.
Yeah. They'll be speaking Spanish where they need to speak Spanish.
Okay. So that's interesting. So the guy that spent, the $150,000 because he believes in the thing and he has it for South America, he makes his money back by what? Selling it to the people that run the movie theaters.
Yep. Right, exactly.
And they have to pay them to show the film. Then they have to get their money back through me going through the door.
Exactly. And we get a portion of every person that walks through the door, and so does everyone down the line.
It's like a commission infinitum, isn't it?
Yeah, it's otherwise
an override.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So when you look at the amount of territories that we can sell and our budget being so low, our recapture on this film is very, very quick because we only need 3 or 4 markets to pick it up.
That's good.
Let alone America. And if America picks it up, that's where we start making real money.
Well, that's exciting. So $600,000 is the total budget. You have $300,000.
Correct.
You've raised that. Most of it out of where? Here, Tucson, or overseas?
No,
here.
It's all local money, local investors, tech people, friends, family, and people that are just genuinely trying to bring.
Can you put anything in? I mean, are you always expecting big bucks? Say they've only got $50 to put in. Will you accept that?
Unfortunately, it is. It's an SEC requirement that we can't.
What is the lowest?
There's no actual number minimum investment, but for ease of management, because investor relations is very, very difficult on any level, no matter what business you're in. So we actually started the initial in at $50,000. We have actually since just hired a fund manager that will be looking after the $10,000 investors.
Okay.
So he's actually getting paid by us to be an investor manager.
Okay.
So we're going to probably do a couple of units of multiple tens.
Okay. It's a business, all right. Units and properly structured and all documented. People aren't getting ripped off. It's no scam.
No.
It shows where your money goes, every dime, what you need, and all the rest of it. It's just that I thought if, people get to hear this and say, oh, good on them. I mean, I'd love to back them. I don't have a lot of money, but I can put this in and hope it goes for you, to support you.
We
know what I mean?
Appreciate them going to see it once we have it in the theater.
That'll be
money
great.
in the theater.
Yeah, I love that.
But Mark, it's like, so basically the distributors are the first to get their money back. They usually take 25, 30%. The investors, we are promising, hopefully, their money back plus 15. And then once they do the recapture of their money plus 15, any other profits are split 50% with the investors, 50% with the producers. So if we need to get a name actor for, let's say, to play the priest, and it's someone who is, maybe a B+ rated actor, and we don't have that much money to pay him, we can promise him money on the back end from the producers.
Okay. So he's playing on the Never Know.
So
well, it's
Williams
residuals.
did that.
Yeah,
Residuals.
Robin Williams did that with Good Will Hunting.
Really?
Yeah. So Ben Affleck and Matt Damon.
Right.
He loved the script.
Yeah.
They didn't have the money to pay him. He took money on the back end and made so much.
So that can happen then. They take a gamble and say, because they'd make a lot more, or would they make a lot? Well, they would. They'd make a lot more than an upfront fee that they'd want to be in the movie.
Absolutely.
Wow.
If they believe in the project, that's the key.
I think the way I'm seeing things now is they all seem to be doing their own.
Well,
They're
Yeah.
getting into producing, particularly Affleck.
Yeah, for sure.
Look at Tom Cruise. He's probably one of the biggest producers in the country.
That's true.
Unbelievable.
And these guys have realized that, the movie industry in general has changed because the studios used to dominate
They
everything.
did until that big strike happened, right?
Well, it's not just that. The streaming services completely upended the studios. And if you look at theatrical releases and how few and far between they are now, is because the studios aren't backing these big releases.
Right. Right.
So streaming has really affected.
Oh, yeah.
Look at what happened with Kevin Costner, though. So his big passion project is this Horizon, an American saga. It got a 7-minute standing ovation in Cannes, and then its theatrical release was not great.
No.
And there's stories about how he mortgaged his house or whatever. Well,
You're kidding.
He's got the money.
He's
to
a
do it.
multi-millionaire, surely, with all
he
he's
put in
done.
$38 million of his own money.
But I'm sick of seeing one series or one episode and they're gone for 6 months to hold you like they did with Yellowstone.
Yes,
that pissed me
exactly.
off.
I
I'm still
know.
waiting on them to come back.
I know.
And then I saw the other night the one you just mentioned with Costner, 1883 or something. It was a very small part towards the end there. What happens with Horizon? Is that going to continue?
Well, he's lost a lot of money.
But
But
theoretically, he's
It's
already
already in the can, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, I think 2 is in the can.
In the can. In your opinion, both of you, because we're going to be 5 minutes left, what will it take for Tucson to become a mecca again for movie making?
Without a doubt, local investment.
Do we want Tucson to be movie making again?
It is a phenomenal bit. The ancillary sales that come with film production are amazing. So, it might be that the film, let's say the film shoots for $1 million, that production will spend $3 million in the town.
That's what you hear. That's what you hear. And how is that done? Briefly, give us an
because
idea.
you've got
Accommodation?
you've got meals,
They've got
transport,
days off.
you've got
They have
days
to
off.
eat on their days off.
They go to tourist things. They travel. They look around. So
They spend money.
it's a captive market.
Yeah. Where else are you going to go? You're stuck in a town for 3 weeks.
So who's responsible, let's say in Tucson, as an example, of wanting to make money here into the town? Who's like the head of that?
Well, the Rio Nuevo project has been trying to develop downtown, and now the Sunshine Mile, which is Broadway, almost all the way down to Wilmot.
And people like Fletcher McClusker.
Yeah, I had Fletcher in about 6 months ago. But other than Nuevo, I'm talking about the
but
film.
Fletcher himself has been a huge promoter of bringing.
He's a big advocate
of bringing film back into Tucson.
Like HBO.
Did you see
supposed
him?
to take over? Yes.
Oh yeah, we're friends with Fletcher, and we discuss everything on a fairly regular basis.
Oh, yeah, okay, that's good. Then he's a lovely fellow.
There have been rumors that HBO was supposed to turn the old Farmer John warehouse on Grant and I-10. HBO was supposed to take it over, so that we would have some studios.
Right.
They're building 2 big studios in Buckeye, and where's the other one?
Surprise, I think.
Up in Phoenix, though.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
I don't know where the other one is. Gilbert?
Don't know. I thought it was Surprise.
See, it's hard for the guys here who want to work, It's like everything else. You got to leave Tucson, get work, and all that. Years later, the mountains bring you back. I love Tucson. There is no place like it, admittedly, in America, weather-wise and everything else. But you got to have the work. And if you're an actor, if you're a cinematographer, you're a director, writer, whatever, where am I going to get the work that actually pays me? Not for nothing, because I've seen enough in here. We've all, work for nothing. You've got to be able to make a living. So that's the, it's very difficult. And I just wish Tucson could really fire again. Imagine all sorts of movies being made here, people coming, the visitors, there'll be a buzz, wouldn't it?
And the other thing is, Tucson is not just a backdrop for Westerns.
That's it,
I mean, there's just so much with the desert and, old bank robberies. Let's tell some old stories. Bisbee has such a rich history that could just be a basis for so many great stories to be told. Plus, it's set back in time. Like, you don't even have to
by
dress
nature.
the set of Bisbee.
Exactly.
Bisbee is just Bisbee. And, there's other towns around here that are similar to that. So that's what we're excited about. We're making a Tucson film, but it's not a Western. It's a modern day.
I mean, Sally's done 3 Westerns in the last couple of years.
That's true.
All shot here in Tucson.
Really?
That have global release and all sorts of things.
Yeah, fantastic.
So there, believe it or not, there's more films being made in this town now than people are even aware of. From $20,000 budgets to multi-million-dollar budgets. It just doesn't get a lot of airplay, and it's not hitting the business community the way it should.
No, it's
they
not.
are mostly small budgets, although we have heard that a big film is allegedly
pending.
coming soon. Yeah, they were supposed to come this fall, so we're waiting to hear.
Well, that's the other thing, when you can shoot with the weather.
That's true.
Nobody wants to do it in the middle of summer.
Well,
No, but we've got 9 months of the year of perfect weather.
That's right, but that's when you do it. You wouldn't do it in the,
For sure.
Well, the funny thing is, I know that this podcast goes much further reaching than Southern Arizona, but, as locals, we know that February is also not a good time because we happen to have a huge international gem show in town.
Right on. Yeah.
Which,
They take all the rooms.
hotels. Yeah.
They take everything. Absolutely. Sally Shamrell Murphy and her good-looking hubby, Glen, my special guests on Tucson Means Business. I hope you enjoyed today's show. They are now the founders of Flat Dog Films LLC. You can write to Sally, Sally at flatdogfilms.com. Right?
Yep, absolutely.
They're also on Instagram at Choir Practice Movie. Okay. And incidentally, the company organization website, because that's often the easiest. You can sit there in your, podgies, your pajamas, and have a cup of joe and go onto the website. And that's www.choirpracticemovie.com. All one sentence, right? And then there's the guest Twitter and tweet, which is now X, right? Yeah. And what's next? A Choir. I got to hand it to that guy. He does a lot of stuff.
Oh, no
I'm sure
comment.
he's an alien. I am absolutely positive.
Have you seen his skin color?
Right.
Nobody's.
Unbelievable what he's coming up with next. I'm telling you, it's scary. It's bloody scary. But he could save us all from AI. That's another good thing. Listen, what can one say except, gee, I don't have the 10 grand. See, you buggered me up. I would have put, $50 in, but now, but
Blame
listen.
the SEC. You don't blame us.
Yeah. Who's the fella that he was supposed to be coming down for the boys' show, BZB? They do a terrific show on movies. Ben and Zach, and I'm hoping they're going to have you on it. The fellow that runs the in Phoenix, he's related to the actor, Afro-American fellow who runs the movie business.
No, you lost me.
Yeah, there you go.
Phoenix is like another planet.
Yeah, it is another world, isn't it?
Yeah, from here.
North, isn't it? I'm not sure.
I don't know.
Somewhere up there.
Never go up there.
No, I don't like
I
the
think
trucks.
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, I just
Can't-
slipped my mind.
can't
That's
think
the
of
sign
the
of
name.
old age. I know. I'm lucky I can even do this.
Well, you do it very well.
Thank you, ma'am. It's been a tough year health-wise, and I'm just grateful to the listeners. I was off air for some time, the subscribers, but it's building back up on the channel. On what's it called again? The YouTube channel. And our goal is to get to 200,000 this year.
Nice.
Nice.
And then a sponsor will talk to me. It's like trying to raise bloody money for a film.
Yeah, John, welcome to our nightmare.
But it's been a pleasure to have you both. Thank you so much for giving up your time. And I wish you all the, break a leg with the movie, okay?
Thanks,
Well, you've
mate.
got a
We appreciate
VIP seat at the premiere.
Oh, God, that'd be lovely. Thank you so much. That's something I've always wanted to do in America. Red carpet and all?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Of course.
you beauty.
Of course.
I get to wear a tux.
Yeah.
All right.
it. Exactly.
Glen Murphy, Sally Shamrell Murphy, thank you so much for being on Tucson Means Business.
Thanks, mate.
Thanks, mate.
Join me again, won't you, when we feature Tucson businesses and nonprofit organizations proudly sponsored by the Outback Steakhouse for a great Aussie tradition, for great food and atmosphere, and Stewart Title and Trust on Broadway, when you want it done right.